Hello tacticians, and I probably should know better than go on holiday in August, as there's been an absolute immense amount of information released, which I'll try and go through in time. However, Shiron the Noise Marine is released this weekend, so I thought I'd better cover him. As always, thank you to everyone who does support the channel, whether it's through subscribing or using my friend code, as it really does help me out. And also remember, every 1,000 subs gets us a new community code for character shards, so it really is a win-win situation. The Noise Marines are my absolute favourite unit when it comes to the tabletop battles, so I'm really hoping it translates well here. Shiron has the Thrill Seeker's trait, so like Lucian, when he takes damage or targets an enemy with full health, he'll become thrilled for 1 round, and whilst thrilled, his crit chance is increased by 15%. And if it defeats an enemy with a crit, that enemy is always overkilled. So that crit chance, always think you can add 15% to it. He is also a heavy weapon unit, meaning that damage, which isn't great, does get an extra 25% with the ranged attacks as long as he doesn't move. And quite helpfully, he's got suppressive fire as well, so this guy becomes equal to Thaddeus when it comes to suppressing enemy units with his movement of 3 and range of 3. The downside is, as I did mention, that damage is fairly low, but if you keep him still, and if you combine it with his passive, you can actually start to do some decent damage indeed. So, let's have a look at those skills. So here's my usual breakdown of everything, and with his active ability, he will affect 3 hexes in a straight line in one of 6 directions. That's obviously from his hex, and that attack will have plus 25% crit chance for each unit on the affected hexes and deals blast damage, only the 1 lot though, to each enemy on those effective hexes. And then those enemies are also suppressed. And why is that important? Well, it comes down to his passive, the Terrifying Crescendo. Shiron's ranged attacks deal extra damage for each time he is overkilled or would have suppressed an enemy unit, up to a maximum of 6 times. So I mentioned that his damage is fairly low. You can see if you can suppress a number of characters with that active ability, you're going to ramp up that damage. And of course, as I said before, he's a heavy weapon user, so you'll get an extra 25% on top of all of that as well. So all of this is looking very promising indeed. So let's have a look at him on the battlefield. And as always, I do like to see how they stand up to a shot from Calandis, so let's just do that. Unsurprisingly, he takes a shed ton of damage. He does survive, so he gets to shoot back. But, let's be honest, you don't really want Shiron moving before he shoots, because, as you can see, he's not going to do much damage normally. But let's just say he is already in range of an enemy. He can then attack and, of course, suppress, letting other units get in and attack as well. Here, only the Wireweave net would have been active against Lucius rather than the Overwatch shot and then the Wireweave net as well. Now here you can see, because we have put suppression on 1, we've got the additional damage from the Terrifying Crescendo. And if for some reason the enemy lines up for you like this, if we target this front drone here, they'll all take blast damage, and that did a lot more damage than I was expecting, managing to kill off Calandis at the back there. And we will also see that the Terrifying Crescendo from that 1 attack has gone up to level 5, giving his attacks an additional 205 damage. So as you can see, it's very important you try and get the maximum you can out of those excruciating frequencies. Now, if we send Vulcan to also attack, who'd also suppress Ravas, you'll see that it doesn't increase that Terrifying Crescendo, because of course it needs to be Shiron doing it and not anyone else. So if we fast forward through another turn and get rid of the drone, Shiron, you can see, will do 685 damage, or if we move him, it'll drop down to 550 because of that heavy weapon trait, which adds to his damage as long as he doesn't move. So in one fell swoop, we can nearly, very nearly, kill Ravas. And then, of course, that Terrifying Crescendo goes up to level 6. So the big question here, is he worth it? As he really does need that passive of his to be maxed out before he does any serious damage. Well, the suppression could be useful for a Neurothrope team. He does have 6 attacks for the multi-hit team, but I'm not sure he'd actually replace any of the existing characters there. Having said all that, I still think he's worth it for other places such as the Guild Wars. The final piece in the puzzle is if you do get Shiron all the way up to Mythic, and I'm sure there's people out there who will, you'll get access to the new mythical item, the Intoxicating Elixir, which is very much like all the other crit chance items. However, it will also deal additional crit damage for each unit within 2 that is suppressed, stunned, taunted, or thrilled, up to a maximum of 6 times. This bonus is then doubled if the relic bearer is at or below 50% health. So this guy could, in theory, put out a lot of damage indeed if you wanted to get him all the way up to Mythic. But before we even get there, is this guy worth unlocking at all? And to be honest, I think he is, and he, to be blunt, is a better Volk in some respects, and he gives the Chaos faction a much needed ranged attacker, and one who may be useful in guild raids if you're missing ranged attackers with those 6 attacks for the multi-hit team. But I'm not really sure that they're top of the class at the moment. Personally, I wouldn't recommend taking him to Mythic, but as this Emperor's Children team is unfolding, they do look like a very solid team for PvP, Guild Wars, and of course legendary events. So you're certainly going to want to get to at least Gold 1. Maybe if you're a long-term player, push for that Diamond 1 because of that eviscerating type, which I wouldn't be surprised is going to be needed in future legendary events. However, he does unlock at Uncommon, so I'd say get that unlock, gear him up as much as you can to help you in those Chaos campaigns if you're a newer player. Personally, I'm certainly going to take him to Diamond 1 as I really do like my Emperor's Children, and I think there is going to be a place for them in the future.